You've got a choice to make this year. Do you want to be part of a magical, mythical fairy tale full of beauty? Or do you want to be part of a mundane life that is full of gray with a perceived sense of safety? It's New Year's Day, 2025, right now. And I came to the ocean for the sunrise. And then guess what happened to me? The water started talking to me. This is the beauty of what happens when you fully step into the magical world, being willing to see more than your five senses can see. I'm gonna spend just a few minutes today because I forgot my tripod, so I have to hold my phone, so this won't be too long, talking about how I made that transition and encouraging you to do the same. Because today is when it starts. Today, right now, in the land of the Muggles, so many people are setting their goals. They're setting the New Year's resolutions, what they hope to accomplish this year. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, having a plan is really, really helpful. It's one thing that I've noticed in the spiritual community, the New Age, is a place that's lacking, honestly. Now, where we get into trouble is when we start to attach ourselves to that plan and we start to control things and try and be the little puppet master of our world. That's not what goals or resolutions are for. It's not for actually achieving the goal or the resolution. It's for allowing you to see clearly what is the next best step for you to take. And then after you see that best step, you take it, and then you're gonna have to reevaluate because the plan might change if you're able to stay in the present, stay in the now. We constantly have to take cues, like this water, right? Going in and out, ebbing and flowing. We need to understand when is it time to paddle out, right? I'm a big surfer. And if we get the timing wrong, we take a beating for no reason at all. Because we could have just waited a few minutes and everything would have been totally fine. So how did I step into this magical world last year? Well, first I committed to digging into sacred and wisdom texts. So I read the Bible the entire year last year with new eyes. I read the Bible with spiritual eyes. Like Jesus said, if he has eyes to hear or eyes to see, let him see, ears to hear, let them hear. Reading the Bible with spiritual eyes will totally change your world. Especially the Gospels. You can see so clearly. I just read a section yesterday where Paul was talking about how the glory of the sun is different from the glory of the star, is different from the glory of another star, is different from the glory of earth. The man was talking about astrology in the Bible. He mentioned the moon in there too. And to see what Jesus was saying, to see that everything was about living from a place of love. Everything was about being compassionate. Everything was about awakening the Christ within ourselves. And it'll change your life if you really dig into it, I promise. It changed mine. And then also other texts like, for me, the Gene Keys, right? I absolutely found a system that I resonate so deeply with, and I've been reflecting on why that is. And what I realized is that it gave me a worldview, a lens through which I can see the world that explains everything in a way that works for my mind. So this idea, for example, that we have a mental body, and then there is a mental plane. So there are these thoughts floating around in that mental plane, and our mental body, based on its frequency, picks up on those various thoughts. The higher our frequency, the higher the frequency thought that we get to feel or get to experience. Same with the astral body or the emotional body and the astral plane. So there are these emotional fields that are around us. And we're constantly attuned to difficult ones in the lower frequency. And it's why we constantly feel stuck in this hamster wheel. But as our frequency raises, by thinking magically, so this is kind of a bit of a circle because I'm telling you, you've got to do this to think more magically, and I'm telling you, you've got to think more magically in order to raise your frequency of your astral body. I'm not blind to that. I see it. And so we have to learn how to tune our emotional system into a more peaceful state. And that doesn't mean we're not in conflict. That's really important. Like, the 6th gene key is conflict, diplomacy, peace. And one of the things Richard, the founders of the gene key, says there is that that key isn't about being out of conflict. In fact, it's about being in conflict. You're going to be in more conflict if you carry that 6th gene key, which I do in my EQ, because it's your role to act with diplomacy in conflict. But the only way that I cannot get sucked into that conflict is by raising the frequency of my astral body to attune to the higher astral frequencies so that I can stay home in myself. So that I don't end up getting sucked up into my third eye and confusing, trying to read everything around me. And in trying to read everything around me so that I can respond appropriately, I lose track of myself. And when I lose track of myself, I cannot live through my heart. To live through our heart is to be fully present and fully embodied in every single moment. It's no easy task to live that way, but it's just coming online for me. And it's like being a kid again. It's like going back and just, you don't really know what's gonna happen at any moment. And that can be really terrifying for people. It can feel really unsafe. It felt really unsafe for me. But what I've realized with enough proof is that it always works out. It always works out if I can just get out of my own way. Even if that working out is a lesson that I needed, it still worked out. And that's a beautiful place to be. So what else did I do? Magical thinking, meditation. When you make the time to be still. This morning I came out and I sat, there's like these rocky things, like the thing I'm sitting on now, but then there's like a metal one and a concrete one that's flat. So I went and sat on the end of that and dangled my legs off the end and just looked out into the water. And it was sunrise and there was just this massive expansive sky. And of course the massive expansive ocean. And when I closed my eyes, I had this just beautiful experience of feeling infinite. And then I opened my eyes and I got to look into infinity. But these moments of spaciousness and pause are what allow you to notice the magic. So it allows you to notice the subtle. Magic is subtle. It's so gentle. It can hit you over the head with a frying pan. It can be fancy and flashy and a burst of light. But that's not how it is most of the time. Most of the time, it is gentle, soft, quiet. It whispers, and our world yells. And so we have to attune ourselves to that magic. And when you meditate and you tune into your body, you will feel this flow of energy, and it takes time. If you're new in this world, it took me years, literally years and years, 5, 6, 7 years to be able to really and truly feel this flow. So give yourself time and patience and gentleness. And start with mapping your emotions, right? Feeling things as you're moving in the world. Notice what anger feels like. Notice what sadness feels like, what happiness feels like. And when you start to feel that different energy in your body, then when you are still, you'll still feel these more subtle energy flows, right? The astral body is a very gross frequency, right? It's physical body, astral body, and then slightly higher frequency mental body, causal body, which is our soul, Buddhic body, which is the plane that connects all things, atmic body, the plane that connects us to God. And as we go up and up and up, the frequency becomes higher and higher, and it becomes less dense and less dense. So the astral body, being right after the physical, is a little bit easier to notice. And that's why I say start there. Start noticing those things in your body. And then when you're in meditation, it becomes a lot easier to notice the even more subtle things of the mental body and of the causal body. But when you do start to notice those currents, you start to feel the Kundalini energy. At least this has been a huge part of my process. And I've not committed to it being Kundalini. I still don't know that for sure. But the way that Kundalini has been described to me, and the way that I feel this kind of snaking, shifting desire and need even to move when I meditate, I do think it's probably that. Also this toroidal energy, this flow up and out through my crown, through the third eye, back down and in front. And it's like this flow that passes and moves through me. These sensations sometimes can be overwhelmingly beautiful, overwhelmingly blissful, or ecstatic, intoxicating. All of these cities that I get to hold and have. And it's something that is always there. I absolutely love this idea from Richard, that the cities are always operating in the background of our lives. So our consciousness comes up into our ego so that we can go out into the world and do all the things that we need to do. But below that, waiting patiently for us to return, is this unending bliss and peace. And so as we're done out in the external world, we can fade back into our being and just come back into that most beautiful, peaceful, loving place and recharge and refuel and refill. And when we get to that place, that's when the messages come. That's when the water talks to you. Everything that I'm saying right now is just flowing through me. And that's what happens when you attune to this magical frequency. We all have this talent, and yours might not look like mine. Right? I'm good at pulling words out of nowhere and spewing them out into the world, which has gotten me into a lot of trouble in the past. Other people can draw these things. Other people have messages for direct to other people. People can create literally anything, right? You can go and be a plumber, as Richard likes to say, and just the interactions that you have with people in doing that job can be life-changing for yourself and for the people that you get to interact with. What other ways has magic spilled into my life? Reconnecting to my primal nature. So that looks like thumping my chest in the mornings. I have this exercise where I breathe really heavy, and I imagine swinging an axe, moving like an animal. There's this primal being inside of me that I was scared of for a really long time, because I used to not be able to control it when it would come. And honestly, I still can't control it, but because the frequency is higher passing through me, it doesn't do the things that it used to do. This used to fight. I used to lose control. But now that energy is directed towards howling at the moon, if you will. That energy is directed towards reconnecting to my desire nature, to my sexuality, which is the same energy of creativity. Coaxing that up and allowing it to flow through me. That primal nature screaming. Oh, it feels good sometimes. Drumming. I love my djembe. And if you don't feel safe to do this with yourself, if you're a man, find some brothers to do this with. If you're a woman, find some sisters to do this with and just let it rip. I promise you'll feel better. Underneath that primal aggression for me is a magical vitality and ease and sense of wonder. And that's the next big thing last year opened for me, is this sense of wonder, this sense of awe. The moments of bittersweet have gone through the roof. And I describe it as an ability or a necessity. It's not even by choice to hold the suffering of the world. I can feel it so intensely and so acutely. And at the same time I'm holding the suffering of the world, I'm seeing just the immense beauty of the world. And the fact that this is all so ethereal. It's all vapor, as it says in, I think, Ecclesiastes. It's all passing by. And there's going to be a last time that we get to do things. And we never know when that last time is going to be. And there's something so pure and so beautiful about that. And those moments of bittersweet well up in my heart that is just indescribable. And in that moment, that's when I know it's time to make something. It's time to channel that energy, allow it to flow through me. My arm's starting to get tired, so I feel like we're coming to an end here. Getting in touch with your heart. That's ultimately what that bittersweet is all about. It's about a flood of love. It's remembering that at the core of me is this sacred wound, this separateness, that there's nothing I can do about it. And the first half of my life was all about trying to come to terms with that suffering in a million unhealthy ways. You name it, I did it. And finally, I see that it doesn't ever go away. I take it back. The suffering goes away. The struggle doesn't. And knowing that, I can see other people struggle, and I can see so clearly why they're acting how they're acting. And that allows me to return non-love with love, which keeps me in a state of constant peace and love. It's the moments where I get drawn out, especially by others, which is interesting because that is often what Richard says is what pulls us out. But for me, it's my behavior that pulls me out. I have such a high standard for myself. I have such a calling by God. And I want to honor that with every fiber in my being. So when I vary from my higher self, that is when I get pulled out of love. More so than other people, I can forgive them. I forgive myself now too. It's getting better and better. But remembering that core wound in myself, remembering the core wound in others, allows me to hold my core stability. When we don't remember that, we get sucked out, we get triggered, we get pissed off. And it harms ourselves because it lowers our frequency, and then the mental body picks up things in the mental plane, and the astral body picks up things in the astral plane that knock us off track for a while. Okay. I hope you have a beautiful new year. I love you guys. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to connect with you, to share my heart, my journey, hopefully to help some of you. Lots more awesome stuff coming. I invite you to join a wisdom call. I do a free call every couple weeks to connect with the community, answer questions, and I'd love to see you there. Until next time.